Welcome to the Jeremy Mullins podcast, where we take a deep dive into different educational topics to help you optimize your life. I'm here today with my partner in crime inside the First Form app, Mr. Montae.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
I'm assuming you have electricity back now, right?
We are good. We are blessed. I spoke on this with Reno in the podcast. I think it was yesterday. Man, like my thoughts and prayers are still going out to people in like Western North Carolina. And I'm just using that one as an example because I have emotional ties there, going and doing some mountain bike races, visited that area before. I know there's other places too. And my thoughts and prayers are to all those individuals because, we personally got very lucky with how it shifted to the right. So we just got sustained winds, 70, 80, 90 miles an hour. But we live in a neighborhood where there's not trees. So there were some trees down in town, but nothing like what some of these other cities and states are going through. So,
Yeah, it's horrible. Definitely thoughts and prayers to everybody.
and I said it and I'll say it again. I'm really going to do it, and it's just a small part. Okay. And once they recover and they're starting to put on like mountain bike races and trail runs in some of these areas, I'm going to ask our listeners and us personally to sign up for some of those events and go do them. So it would be an opportunity not only to get to meet people in person, have people from Team Alpha come and do it with us, but also just kind of our way of like putting some money into that economy once they start building back. Because if we can get 10, 20, 30 people go and do races that maybe would not have done races in that area for that year, that's an extra 10, 20, 30K, going to that area. So that's something that keeps coming up in my mind and I want to do. So,
Awesome.
but speaking of energy this morning, my energy is brought to you today by Screaming Freedom is the flavor of the day.
Nice. We're kind of on the same. I don't have the 1P energy, but I do have Rocket Pop Megawatt.
Ooh, I just ordered two of the pineapple. Pineapple's been my favorite flavor of everything this summer. I guess being in Florida, the summer heat, going to more of the tropical flavors. So, but
It's, it's
listen, Megawatt started the day. I'm actually a half marathon in, walking, running today. So gosh, I don't know if I put that out there. This will be a while before it goes, but Dennis will figure it out by then. So Dennis caught me on Garmin on points, right? So he's doing all these little things like yoga and getting up at 7 every single day to collect all these points. And he finally caught me. And I'm like, Roger that. So each week this month, I am going to walk a marathon. So I got up at 5. Katie and I went and ran 7 miles together. And then I came back in, did some work, took care of some stuff that needed to be like in the sitting down to do. Then I went out and walked around and answered some messages, So, and after we get finished with the calls, the podcast today, once I wrap stuff off this afternoon, I'll go out and same thing. I'll get, 3 or 4 more hours in of run, walk, and answering messages. So, even when I take Brady to practice this evening, it's going to be run, walk, and answer some messages. 26.2 miles will go down today, Mr. McLaughlin. 8 points for Jeremy on Garmin.
so is that once a week, like in one day, in one given day?
In one given day. So as a goal I set for the month of October was to walk, run / ruck a marathon, during the day. Right. And what I'm trying to do is a couple hours of that is what I would consider a workout. It's my run workout of the week where I get up, I'm not answering messages. It is going out and running. Right. And then after that, I'm just, I'm picking a day that we don't have a lot of, I don't have a lot of things I'm doing other than answer messages. And then I'm just kind of running, 3 or 4 minutes at a fast pace and then popping up, answer messages for, 8, 10 minutes and then go. So it makes the day longer because, how I'm wired. Like I'm going to work 8 hours, right? At a minimum, it's going to get done. But I'm also going to get that in during the day. So, but yeah, I'm halfway through. So just gotta have to go the rest of the day.
Awesome.
But speaking of getting out and getting some steps in and moving, today we want to talk about the benefits of walking, how we utilize it inside specifically fat loss routines. Okay. So we're going to go and talk about some benefits of, walking, why we think it's beneficial, why we recommend it to brand new people, especially when they're talking or they're starting their journey, and why we want people to continue doing it, right? So, because I think when we recommend someone walk for 45 to 60 minutes every single day, it has different benefits and reasons why we're doing it when someone is brand new with us versus someone who is on their wellness journey for 2 to 3 years, right? And that's kind of where I want to start with because, this was probably a few months ago. It seemed like on social media, there was this big trend of like influencers or trainers that were like, walking is not exercise. And then you had this side that was like, walking is exercise. We always have to remember who we are speaking to, what is the group that we're doing, and what is the intent of the message. Okay. So I am kind of in the middle of it. Walking is 100% exercise for someone who is brand new. If
Right.
someone's detrained, 60, 80, 100 pounds overweight, if they go out and walk a brisk walk, their heart rate is going to go up. They're probably going to be in zone 3, maybe even zone 4 cardio. They are getting cardiovascular conditioning out of that walk. Okay. Fast forward a year, 2 years, this person has that goal body weight, right? They've lost all their weight. They're down that 80 pounds that they need to lose. They've been walking for 2 years. They've been now exercising. Now they're running a little bit. They're doing strength and conditioning. Then a walk might not be exercise for them. It's just daily activity. It has other benefits, mental, right? Physical, posture, bone density as far as outside movement. There's a lot of other benefits that could come from it. But yes, I wouldn't categorize it as exercise at that time. I would categorize it as daily activity. And I think that was the big thing people were missing in that conversation where they were saying, well, walking is not exercise. I want you to understand if you're new and this is the first time you're listening to this and you're deconditioned, you're out of shape, walking is a great place to start.
100%.
And I think of this like, we just went to Disney a couple of weekends ago for a quick, weekend trip. And, I saw multiple people who were overweight, right? And they were having to sit down because they just couldn't walk the distance that they were walking or they had been walking. And you could tell they were out of shape. They were sweating, like that is where we have to look at it and say, for the average person who is deconditioned, if you start walking 45 to 60 minutes every single day, you focus on protein and calories in your diet, you can make great changes inside of a program. Okay. Now I mentioned at Montae, 45 to 60 minutes of walking. How and why do you utilize this with your people? So just kind of getting your perspective now as a coach, when you start recommending 45 to 60 minutes, how's that conversation go? What are maybe some pushback that people get? What are some questions that come from people?
So typically how it goes is like I'm recommending off the bat 45 minutes minimal of walking. And it's because it's low impact, it's not driving additional hunger. And a lot of people that come in, they're not moving. A lot of people, even though we don't like to think so, we live a sedentary lifestyle. So for me, I'm sitting down at a desk all day, even though I'm working out. I'm doing a program right now where I'm kind of doing 2 workouts a day. Like I am still technically sedentary because of what I do throughout the day. I am just sitting. So increasing that movement first and foremost is just going to get you moving more, which we all know the benefits of moving more. We're going to burn more calories. We're going to feel better. It's going to help loosen us up a little bit. So I automatically recommend that right off the bat. And a lot of people, some of the pushback I get is, well, I walk all day, every day.
Yeah.
Like I work in a hospital. I'm an ER nurse. I work in a warehouse. I get a lot of steps. And typically, what my response to that is, okay, and I kind of go back to my own journey being overweight. I was walking a lot, working in restaurants, working in warehouses. And it's like, if the goal is fat loss and I am currently doing this walking right now and the fat loss is not happening, it's okay. We have to do that movement on top of what we're currently doing. Because just like with anything else, over a long period of time of doing this stuff, our body is used to that. So we have to do more on top of that. And that's one of the main things I get is I already walk a lot, and it's like, okay, I get it, I understand it, but are we trying to get results? Because if we want to get results and what we are currently doing is not driving that, then we need to go out and do more on top of that. So then that's one of the biggest pushbacks I get. And then people are like, well, I work, I have kids, I can't do it this amount of time, I can't do 45 minutes. Perfectly fine. I'm not telling anybody, you have to go out and walk for 45 minutes straight. If you have a time where you take a phone call, hey, you can go outside and you can just walk around while you take a phone call for 10 minutes. Boom, there's 10 minutes in the bank. Later on, we got 15 more minutes. Get out and get some steps in intentionally. We're at 25 minutes, right? It accumulates. We can build that up. It doesn't have to be go out, specifically walk for this set amount of time. Otherwise, you're not getting results.
100%. I had that conversation this week. Talked to a girl and she was like, well, I hadn't been walking because I don't have an hour that I can get the walk in. I'm like, it doesn't have to be an hour at a time, and you can still get benefits out of 30 minutes, right? Remember, the reason that we utilize, this is your take home message for the podcast today, ladies and gents. The why we utilize walking during fat loss is it increases caloric expenditure without increasing hunger and breaking the body down. Okay. A lot of people like to go out and do, well, I'm going to do 2 a days. I'm going to do HIIT training. I'm going to start running. The issue with that is it increases your appetite. You're using a lot of blood glucose, a lot of muscle glycogen for energy, and the body is going to tell you to replace that by increasing your hunger. Versus walking does not increase your hunger, and you burn roughly 100 calories per mile that you walk, right? So for every 3 miles, it's an extra 300 calories, right? Most people, even my little short, legs, can get 3 miles in an hour walking. So for an hour, it's an extra 300 calories for people. Sometimes a little more, sometimes a little bit less. Compound that 7 days a week, right? It's 21 extra 100 calories that we're burning through exercise. And then you mentioned it. We are okay because I get a lot of people, and one of our good friends, Kenny Claiborne does the same thing, but he teaches it as more zone 2 cardio and has people do it at the gym. That's okay too. Why we love just recommending walking was what you mentioned. You can break it into 10 minutes here. You can break it into 15 minutes there, right? You can just be more active throughout the day, especially have a desk job. Get up every hour and walk for 5 minutes, right? Drink water, walk, stretch. Those are things that you can do to improve not only your fat loss journey, but overall health. Okay. And those are some questions I get all the time. It's like, well, Jeremy, can I just ride a bike or do the row or do something like that? 100%. If it's done at lower intensity, you can definitely do that. But remember, why we enjoy and recommend the walking is you don't have to go to the gym to do it, right? Because we don't want you spending 2 hours at the gym because, once again, the walking, why in the beginning can be exercise, right? Can be cardio for someone, could be their main thing that they're doing for their exercise with a little bit of resistance training. Eventually, the walking becomes daily activity. And then you're still doing your strength and conditioning program, which we want you to spend your hour at the gym doing. And then the walking is extra. That's the reason we hang our hat on it being walking so that you can work it in whenever you want to. But I totally get it. Maybe you're traveling, right? And you live in an area that maybe it's not that safe to go out when it's dark and you need to do something inside, ride a bike. Totally fine. You could substitute lower intensity cardio on a different piece of equipment for the walking in the purpose of burning those extra calories without increasing the appetite.
You touch on something I was going to touch on is that you don't have to have that equipment. And getting into this row advising in the app, in the first form app, I started working with people from everywhere, not just people locally to me. And I started working with people who are out in the country. They're like, hey, I'm like an hour away from a gym. And I'm like, oh, like that really happens. That there's really people out there who are so like, hey, okay, get it. We can go walk. We can do the body weight movements and stuff like that. But then also with you being able to do it anywhere, single parents in general, getting out there doing stuff with your kids. And I like to tie a lot of stuff into parenting because that was a big reason behind my change. But putting the kids in the stroller, I mean, I do it all the time. There's some Saturdays my wife works, like, hey, kids had lunch, it's time for nap time. First and foremost, I know if I take her for a stroller ride, she's gonna fall asleep and take a nap. But also, like, I'm getting my steps in and get to spend time with them and love just that leading by example part, getting the kids involved. My daughter's 3. She knows when I'm putting my shoes on and grab my rucksack, she's like, "Daddy, I wanna go for a walk." Like, so it's beneficial in so many different ways. You don't need the equipment, you don't need a gym. You can do it with the family and involve them in it and then teach them.
Yeah. And that 300 calories is 3 miles intentional walking, right? So if you go out, you walk the dog for 15 minutes in the morning, you walk the dog for 15 minutes in the evening, you walk 30 minutes at lunch, boom, there's your hour. That's why we recommend the hour walking, right? Now, we will do this too. If someone's really pushing their fat loss, I will have them, hey, do a 24-hour recall, 7 days a week on what your schedule looks like, right? We do this also when people say they don't have time, because if you have used the excuse you don't have time for something, okay, I'm okay with that if it's 100% true. Okay. And what I mean by that is like yesterday, I all I got in was an hour and a half walk yesterday. Okay. I prioritized other things than working out. Okay. I prioritized Zoom calls with people from our team. And I was on calls for 8 hours yesterday, not counting, answering emails, answering messages inside the app. I take care of the kids in the morning so Katie can train. I pick up the kids in the evening. So when the kids got home, same thing. I went to Bree and she was wanting Panda Express. I love her heart. She's in this Panda Express kick. And I'm like, honey, if I'm going to spend money, hey, to order you Panda Express and have it delivered because I ain't going to get it, you're going for a walk with me, right? I want to spend time with you. I want you to get out and move. And I was like, and I'll do that. Bartering is how I parent. I am the barter when it comes to parenting. I wear the bartering hat in our family, right? Earn it is the way I look at it. Katie says it's bartering. I look at it as they earn it. So we went for a mile and a half walk, right? Threw the vest on, pushing the baby, giving Katie a little bit of break from getting home, and they went walking with me, right? So there was a mile and a half, that was there. Then Katie came out, pushed the baby, and she walked another, mile and a half with me. So there was 3 miles with the family, right, on the rucksack. So that's ways that yes, you can work that in there and make it work for you. Okay. A couple of things as we close this up. You mentioned it earlier. There's a difference being on your feet and getting a lot of steps in. Okay. So once again, love my nurses. My wife's a nurse. We talk about this all the time. A lot of times the nurses don't get as many steps as what they think, but they're on their feet all day, which is very hard, very difficult, very hard because you're on your feet all day. Well, like you said, if we're 60 pounds overweight and we've been nursing for 10 years, you're already used to that. We have to stimulate a higher caloric expenditure to produce results. Okay. So that's why we still want to shoot for that 45 to 60 minutes every single day if we're on a fat loss journey. Second part of this is as you progress, we do recommend that you add a load. So as you start to lose weight, your body is used to 240 pounds, right? So now you're down to 220. Be a great time to invest in a weighted vest or a rucksack. Because then what you can do is you can add that load that your body's already kind of used to back on, and the body's going to have to work a little bit harder, right? Which is going to burn more energy, burn more calories, increase that caloric expenditure. So as you're progressing throughout your wellness journey, in the beginning, you start out 45, 60 minutes a day, just walking. Eventually, you may add a vest to that, walk a little bit faster, and then eventually that just becomes daily activity. And you're doing maybe running, you're doing cycling, you're doing some other form for your cardiovascular training.
100%. Love it.
Pretty easy, pretty straightforward. Is the
Straightforward,
most
simple.
underutilized tool out there, I think.
I tell a joke. I mean, I tell that joke all the time. We get on this topic when you first started coaching me, and I was like, I'm coming to this app. I'm trying to be like the next LeBron James, and this guy's over here telling me I need to go for a walk, and I'm like, what is this? But hey,
Man,
I
go back a decade ago. That's what people don't understand. Like, I'm old in this. Like, I used to call it grunt work, moving dirt. Like, I tried to come up with these fancy terms for walking because people wouldn't do it. They, especially a decade and a half ago, it was all the high intensity stuff, right? Had to be high intensity or it was nothing. And thank God with, our community, a lot of our subculture inside the first form community with Andy doing 75 hard, a lot of people doing walking for that, it's cool again. But yeah, a decade and a half ago, like people would be like, no, I ain't walking. It's a waste of time. Okay. It is important. Get it in. Okay. And don't be afraid to double dip with it. If you have the flexibility to take phone calls, take conference. I mean, I know there's certain calls you can't take. I 100% get that. But what can you do, right, to double dip, whether that's family, whether that's your dog, whether it's catching up with friends, whatever it is. Okay. Maybe it's watching your favorite TV show. Just
I'm
putting it
happy
out
to
there.
do that.
There's ways to get it in, right? And to be productive and work it in. So if you're on your fat loss journey, get 60 minutes at a minimum in. If you got time to do more, right? We will never limit that. The only issue to have out of walking, I think, is blisters, right? So I tell people all the time, like you will recover physically from walking. You can't overtrain from walking. You're not going to increase your appetite with walking. If you're not used to it, you start walking 3 miles a day, or sorry, 3 hours a day, you could get some blisters from that. So be careful. All right. Appreciate you guys once again for listening. I hope you guys are enjoying it. If you do have any topics, I haven't asked for this in a while. If you have any topics you would like us to cover, specifically if you're working with Montae and myself inside the app, and there's a topic you would like to cover a little bit more in depth where we have more time here in the podcast, please let us know. I hope you guys have a wonderful day.
Thanks, Jeremy.